Hey, good afternoon. I'm actually getting a jump on my video today. There's a little daylight out, which is really nice. I just went for a run, which kind of ties into my Unis Honest tribute today. DIY Geriatric Simulator. This was a really good video. It was very interesting. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I still think it was very well made, and I still think it was like an interesting take. Apparently, so what the boys did is they went there's I guess something you can find online that is like, oh, here's this kit to make you feel old. It's like all these weights for your legs and things to inhibit your joint movement and all these sorts of things that you can buy for, I think they said it was like $80 or $100. It was a lot of money, and the boys were basically like, we can go and do this for way cheaper, so much better, and so much cheaper. So I went to like a CVS or Walgreens or whatever, and they stocked up on all these ankle weights and sort of like braces and things to like stiffen their joints. And I think they also bought adult diapers and bad reading glasses, or just, I don't even know, just random stuff like that, and also a walker. So the boys went ahead and went back home. They had a little transition to, whenever they were going from the store to home. That's something too I really liked about Unis Honest, is they would always have they would do the transitions, and the editors would do that very well. And I thought that was really well planned that they would do that as well. So anyways, they went back to Mark's house, and they tried the stuff on, and they did the whole they did the whole basically role playing as if it was they were the other one's grandfather. And so I remember they went with it. There was one bit where they were Ethan was trying to ask Grandpa Mark about relationship advice, oh gee, there's this girl I like at school, and Mark's like, oh, what's her name? And it's her name's Abigail. I just think that stuff is so cute. Anyways, and they tried it out, and they were kind of hamming it up. I feel like they were doing all the what, and oh, I can't see you, and all this weird stuff. They tried to walk around the pool, and I think they tried to time each other to see who would do it the slowest or fastest. But they were definitely acting out and acting old and things. I feel if you really tried to sprint around the pool using all that stuff, you get it so much faster than they did. But anyways, and then I liked the ending too, where Mark just walks into the pool and just continues walking, and Ethan has this fake phone call to a nurse, oh, he's walking into the pool again, what should I do? Should I call 911? And I think then they just had the timer tick, and they just rolled with that, and that was the episode. I feel if I recall correctly, they actually revisited this episode in the final live stream. The boys rewatched it and reminisced and all that sort of thing. So anyways, that was the Unis Honest video. It was really good. It was very interesting. Even though it was one I didn't really go back and watch, because I just kind of didn't care for the sort of corny humor of overplaying oh, I'm an old man, but they did it well. They made the thing. They made the kit for half the price of whatever the heck the online thing was. So that was really cool. I think they also whatever walker they got, they were saying was the Cadillac of walkers or whatever that was available. So anyways, all I gotta say that this relates to me. So I just went for a run, and it was a little difficult to get out, even though I'm a little bit better energy and a little more clear-headed today. It still is difficult to really pull yourself and do the dang thing, but I did it. And I did want to say a few notes about health and wellness and aging, because that's a very serious thing that a lot of people deal with, that everybody theoretically deals with, is the difficulties with aging, and how that affects your body and how your body's functionality. The best thing to kind of stave off the negative effects of aging, like joint stiff, especially the sort of things that they portrayed in DIY Geriatric Simulator, of things being heavier and your joints being stiffer. The best way to kind of combat that is exercise, and also a good nutritive diet. If you get a lot of omega-3s, that's supposed to help your joint health. And getting good exercise, without overdoing it, of course, is a good way to keep you limber and keep your flexibility up and keep your muscles strong. I think there's a statistic of the approximate amount of like skeletal muscle loss that anybody has, especially I think after the age of 30. If you don't do any activity whatsoever, really, or kind of just like a moderate amount of activity, maybe, or a standard amount of activity, whatever that may be. But there was basically studies to show that if you don't change your activity levels, and you're not an especially active person, every decade you lose about 10% of your skeletal muscle mass. So that does make things like feel heavier, and it makes it difficult to move and all those sorts of things. So I always thought about that. I thought that was very interesting too, because so having higher skeletal muscle mass helps your metabolism as well. And I remember, like, for the longest time, my mother was like saying, like, every 10 years it seems like I put on another 10 pounds. And that kind of makes sense. If she didn't make any more effort to exercise more or to really, affect her diet or anything, then if you're losing that skeletal muscle mass and your metabolism is therefore slowing down, then you might be putting on more weight. And there's nothing wrong with that, for the record. Actually, I think as you age, if you have a little more weight on you, you have a higher longevity, just because if you get sick, then your body can live longer, basically. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, and there's a lot of like interesting things about how exercise affects you as you age. And one thing too that I think is like a really important thing to remember is, no matter how old you are, it's never too late to start getting active. It's never too late to find an activity that works well for you. And it's never too late to actually build your muscle mass. There are stories, I think, of people in their 80s who have gotten into basically bodybuilding and been really good at it. So totally, like, yeah, look that stuff up. It's really interesting. It's really fascinating. And for older folks, usually, they get the sort of some people actually only really get motivated to get healthy and active whenever they're in their older years, because they're like, I want to be able to hold and play with my grandchildren. I want to be able to, play ball or play tag and like run around the yard, whatever, like play their active games. I want to be able to, hold my grandbaby without like struggling or whatever. For me, like, I need to keep my like activity and flexibility, and like there are days where like I feel like, oof, I'm not where I would like to be. And yeah, it does get kind of harder over the years, but it doesn't mean that there's any less potential to be active and be athletic and be healthy. So that's kind of like my a little, roundabout way of saying, like, it's interesting, like, how we portray and how we perceive old age. There are some things we have no control over. There are some awful, awful diseases that you can, get as you age, or even like children getting cancer is just like terrible. And I know that, yeah, but that's definitely a thing that tends to affect older folks, or how, like type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes. And that does affect, just about anybody, depending on, genetic factors and diet and exercise and all sort of things. So that's a long-winded way to say, though, that exercise can definitely help you keep your youthfulness, as it were, throughout the years. I feel like Mark and Ethan are going to age just fine. I don't think they're going to have, like, any significant, like, joint problems or difficulty moving or anything, because they just are very driven and very active people. And so they're definitely, like, inspiring in that way. But, yeah, I'm just, like, there's a lot to think about it. But it's interesting because, yeah, there's like kind of this weird misconception or this idea that some people have in their heads of like, oh, you need to be active in your 20s or whatever. Sure, it's easier, and yeah, it might become harder as the years pass, but it doesn't make it any less achievable, or doesn't make it unrealistic to set goals. So yeah, I don't know if I really have a point to land on there. So hope you enjoyed that windy conversation. But today might be a day where I do a catch-up video. And I'm feeling really good about today. And yeah, so I don't have anything else to say right now. But I'll see you guys in the next video.